Have you noticed that Goku goes to the bathroom a lot in Daima? Maybe all that weird stuff he's eating in the demon realm is giving him the runs. Well, let's talk about that, plus a bunch of other things in today's breakdown of Dragon Ball DAIMA, Episode 7. My name is Tony, and I break down anime and especially Dragon Ball stuff. If you're into that sort of thing, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment because there's more content coming and I would appreciate your support. So, I've got 5 things I noticed in Dragon Ball DAIMA Episode 7. Let's get into it. Number 1. So, we now know for sure that the Kaioushin come from Planet Kaishin. So this is really interesting in that Dragon Ball DAIMA is making little tweaks and changes to the pre-established lore. Now, granted, a lot of what we knew about the Kaioshin, the Kaiou-sama, the Kais, if you want to refer to them in a more general sense, wasn't in the original manga, right? This was in the supplemental material. So in a sense, it's pretty much totally okay to change it because this wasn't previously established within the core story, right? But anyway, the point here is that until Dragon Ball DAIMA establishes something within the story, it's all up for grabs. Now, I've talked about this topic before in a previous breakdown. For example, the term Shinjin used to be commonly used to refer to like Kaioushin and all the Kais, right? Like that was their race, I guess you could say, right? But now we're not hearing the word Shinjin anymore. Like it's not, I don't think it's been used a single time in Dragon Ball DAIMA as far as I've been able to notice. We're only hearing the term Glind, right? So Glindians, Glind, Gurindojin in Japanese. So is there a difference between Glind and Shinjin? I don't know. I don't know. And I don't think that has been explained. Well, maybe it has by the time that, whatever the most recent episode is, maybe that has shed further light on it. So until we finish watching DAIMA, DAIMA ends, we won't know a lot of these things for sure, and maybe some of them will remain as a mystery. Now, the Planet Kaishin was already something part of the existing lore, and this was where the trees were that the Kaioshin and the Kaiou-sama were born from, right? They came from fruit. This appears to still be the case because that is how Nahare, Kaioushin, Shin has explained it. So no significant changes here as far as we can tell at the moment. That being said, Planet Kaishin is within the second demon realm. So does that mean that there are other planets within the second demon realm? I don't know. I have no idea. But if there's one planet, you would want to assume that there would be other planets as well. And I kind of suspect we're not going to get any information about that because that's just kind of too much, right? They're just going to end up on Planet Kaishin for whatever reason. Maybe the second Dragon Ball is on Planet Kaishin. And so Nahare and Glorio and Goku and Panzy have to go to Planet Kaishin. So one other thing that I wanted to mention here is in the previously established lore before DAIMA, we had this whole story about how when one of the Kaiou would die, then one of the roughly like 80 that were still back on Planet Kaishin would draw lots, and then they would go to replace the dead Kaiou. However, in Dragon Ball DAIMA, we're hearing that the Glindians, perhaps Shinjin, like in parentheses, they left. Right? And it seems like, well, as far as we know, only Degesu and Arinsu stayed behind. Now, it may end up being like Star Wars, where like every so often you get a new Jedi that somehow survived Order 66. It's like, oh, there's another Glind, the Glindian that stayed behind. So maybe that happens. I don't know. But at least at this point in time, it kind of sounds like the whole 80 Shinjin staying behind and studying and being born from the trees, blah, blah, may not be the case anymore. But I suppose if we end up at Planet Kaishin, Goku and everybody ends up going there, then we're going to get an answer to this. So hopefully we will get more details on this within the next 2 or 3 episodes because, after they defeat the Tamagami number 3, they may end up going to, the second demon realm or whatever, So just got to stay tuned and see what happens. Number 2. Apparently Goku's got a bad stomach in DAIMA because he's had 2 occasions, I think, already that he's had to go to the bathroom. Well, okay, so in this episode, he ends up going to the bathroom before his face-off with the Tamagami number 3. Now, this wasn't like he really had the runs or anything, but still, like, I don't remember in Z Goku really having to go to the bathroom all that much or ever. Although it's been a while since I've rewatched Z, so please correct me. When's the last time in canon that Goku had the runs or really had to go to the bathroom? There's a moment in the original Dragon Ball after the Red Ribbon Army saga, but before the next tournament with Tenshin Han, right? There's a episode that might be filler. I don't know. I haven't checked the manga. Where Goku is in some random village and he gets in a fight with some guy, the local strong guy, and there's this kid that's kind of jealous of him and gives him a laxative. So during the match, he really has to go to the bathroom. He wins, and then I guess he runs off to the bathroom. I literally just watched this like a few days ago because I'm rewatching the original Dragon Ball. So Goku is not a stranger to poop humor, but there's quite a bit of poop and fart humor in Daima. I guess they're really trying to push that aspect, that kind of like more OG Dragon Ball-ish aspect of Goku, which is interesting because like only his body has reverted, right? It's not his mental state that has reverted to the, to a child, right? So I don't know. They're kind of overdoing it a little bit, but whatever. It's kind of funny, I guess. So I'm largely okay with it. We'll see if there's more poop humor in future episodes. Oh, geez. All right. Let's go to the next one. Number 3. Kacchinko makes a comeback. So Kacchinko is the substance, the metal that was used to create the collars around the inhabitants of the third demon realm. And of course, Shin / Nahare removes the collar from Panzy. And this is when we find out about Kacchinko and the origins of these collars. So he speculates that it was probably Arinsu, Dr. Arinsu, his sister, that created these collars back when Dabura was the Demon King. And again, these collars are made of Kacchinko, which is supposed to be the hardest metal in the universe. And this is not the first time that we've seen Kacchinko in Dragon Ball. So the first time, I believe, was during the whole Z-Sword portion of the Buu saga. And Shin actually makes a cube of Kacchinko appear. And then Goku uses that cube to test the strength of the Z-Sword. He throws it at Gohan. Gohan tries to cut it, but then the Z-Sword breaks. So we've seen Shin summon Kacchinko before, so this might be a retcon, right? Probably Toriyama wasn't thinking too deeply about Kacchinko at the time, but now that scene works out very well with this one because in this one we see him unlock the collar, right? So, and he implies that it's actually quite simple to do so once you know the trick to do it, which I guess is the magic spell or whatever. I don't know, the pan that he says. Maybe you got to learn how to say that properly. But the point is that in Z, it's established that he can summon Kacchinko, even though he can probably summon other things, maybe. But you can make the argument that the Glinds, it's been established there that Glinds have some kind of special power over Kacchinko. And then that is playing a role here where he opens up the collar, right? He unlocks it. And then there's also another instance where Kacchinko is used in Dragon Ball or appears in Dragon Ball, and that's during Dragon Ball Super in the Tournament of Power. The ring is made of not Kacchinko, but actually Katchinko. So this is supposedly a stronger form of Kacchinko. And even though that ring gets totally destroyed, so not that strong, I guess. But yeah, that one's called Katchinko. As for the origins of this word, so Kacchin is the sound of metal clanging with metal. So for example, like swords clanging with each other would be Kacchin. That's the onomatopoeia. And then ko is kind of like ait. So like I was looking online. I saw, I think it was the Dragon Ball Wiki. The Viz Media manga translation of Kacchinko is actually clangite. Clangite. So ait, like as in a metal, right? And then clang as in the sound of metal clashing with metal. I thought that was a really, really clever translation. So good job, whoever localized that over at the Viz manga. I like that take on it. But I think it's often translated as Katchin steel. There may be some variation depending on whether you're looking at the games or whatever. I don't know if it's totally uniform, but Kacchinko is the Japanese version of that. one more thing related to Kacchinko is that whole part where Bulma tries to figure out what went wrong with the airplane, right? So remember at the end of the last episode, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Bulma, and Kibito originally, right? They tried to set off to go to the Demon Realm to catch up with Goku, but there's a problem with the ship, and then it comes back down, and now we find out that the fuel source that the airplane used, I guess was out of energy. So one thing that I've seen one Japanese person, one YouTuber speculate is that perhaps that fuel source is Kacchinko, which makes sense. So they say that it's something that can only be obtained in the Demon Realm. So that would be Kacchinko. That's one possibility. So hopefully that works out. I think that would be pretty interesting, although I don't think it would be that important to the story. And of course, Hybiss then shows up and takes Vegeta and Piccolo and Bulma to the Demon Realm. And I'm really loving Hybiss. I want more scenes with Hybiss. I love that scene at the end with the whole him talking to the king again, King Kadan, and the King Kadan says I'll give you as many pizzas as you want. And then Hybiss says, I want worm pizza L size, but only one. What? Why not a whole pizza? And then of course Hybiss says, I got a date, I got to go do this. But no, King Kadan says, no, you got to take those guys over to where Goku and everybody is. So I'm really liking Hybiss. I hope Hybiss keeps appearing and they keep making more jokes with Hybiss, because I think there's some potential there. If they stop now, I think Hybiss will be a little bit of a forgettable character. So more Hybiss. Number 4, Shin's real name is Nahare. So I've mentioned this in previous breakdowns because I had seen this on some Japanese website or something, like Nahare is Kaioushin or Shin's real name. Now this fits in with the whole motif that we've seen established with Zamasu, Goasu, Arinsu, and Degesu. So all of these are basically Japanese verbs or some kind of variation of a verb, like a conjugation. In the case of Nahare, it's Shinahare. And all of these are either mean be, exist, or they're like a conjugation of that. So again, I've said it in a previous breakdown. It's not that funny. Like when I first saw Zamasu and Goasu, I was like, whoa, these aren't like commonly used verbs either, right? Like these are either like really polite or kind of archaic forms. Japanese has a lot of verb endings and different verbs for do and exist and different dialects and all that. Nahare specifically from the Kansai dialect. So, not particularly funny or interesting to a non-Japanese speaker, but it's all consistent and it's all interesting to me. So there you go. Nahare is Shin's real name. Number 5, I figured out the meaning of the secret code that appears in this episode. So as you probably remember, when you use Warp Sama, you need a 4-digit code. And the previous 2 4-digit codes that appeared in the show, in episode 1 and I believe episode 3, both had secret meanings. And I covered that in my breakdowns for those episodes. So go watch those videos if you haven't already, if you want to find out what the secret meaning of those pin codes are. Well, this one in this episode has a secret meaning as well. But as far as I can tell, nobody on the Japanese internet or in Japanese YouTube videos has talked about this or deciphered it. I'm sure maybe somebody out there has deciphered it, but as far as I can tell, that information is not online. I looked in English as well, and I couldn't find anything, but I didn't look that deeply in English anyway. I just tried to figure it out on my own, and I think I got it. I'm pretty sure I got it. So 1022 is the secret code. It's the pin number, right? And so after doing a bunch of different things and doing it backwards and forwards and trying to figure out Japanese words that could correspond to those numbers and all that, I reached the conclusion that it had to be a date. It had to be October 22nd. And what's so special about October 22nd? Well, it's the air date of episode 35 of the original Dragon Ball anime. In this episode, Goku has just crash landed. He had gotten in a Red Ribbon Army airplane with a robot in the previous episode. And at the end of that episode, in episode 34, they crash landed. So this sounds kind of similar to what has been going on in Dragon Ball DAIMA lately, right? They did have a little crash landing in their airplane. They're okay now in this episode, but that happened. So that's already kind of similar. And then in episode 35, the Red Ribbon Army is looking for Goku. They're going around. They're trying to track him down. They start at the airplane and then they go to the village. So it's this whole snowy country, right? And Goku gets rescued by this girl named Suno. And her and her mom end up giving him a coat and all that. They rescue him. They save his life basically because he was going to freeze to death in the snow. Meanwhile, the Red Ribbon Army is looking for him. They're like threatening the people. They're like, there's this one part where there's like the Red Ribbon Army soldier has like a gun to this this villager's head. It's really striking. You know, we don't see this happen anymore in Dragon Ball. It's too much for modern sensibilities. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that this 1022 is a reference to that episode because in this episode, what we see is the military police trying to track down Goku. It's very, very reminiscent of that episode. Or, yeah, I guess you would say, because this episode has come, 38 years after that one, right? So, yeah, this one is reminiscent of that one. So, I am so confident that that is what this 1022 is referring to. I don't know if anybody else online has mentioned this already, but hey, maybe I'm the first one. If so, yay for me.
By the way, that soldier character that hacks the ship and provides Panzy with the updated secret code, that character's name is Peraru. Yes, this is yet another name that comes from a flower term. Specifically, it comes from Pelargonium, which is another flower genus. I am not familiar with these flower terms, but if you are, well, I'm happy for you. I guess flower fanatics, botanists are having a wonderful time watching Dragon Ball DAIMA.
And here's one last thing that I noticed. So there was that sequence where the military police forced Glorio and everybody to land so that they can search the ship for Goku because there's a warrant out for his arrest, essentially. They're looking to take him into custody. Before that, the characters were eating these things called manpukugan. This literally means full stomach stone. Full stomach stone. Manpuku means full stomach. Gan is an alternate reading for the kanji iwa, which means stone. So basically, these are like protein shakes. they are like 2 meals worth of sustenance. So they're a little bit like senzu beans, although it's not stated that they like fill you with energy and heal you. They're just sustenance, right? Although the original like Dragon Ball at the very, very beginning, the first time senzu beans make an appearance, it's not clearly stated that they revive you, that they heal you, right? These senzu beans. Like in the first time when Goku goes and meets Karin or Korin for the first time, like when he climbs the tower, right? Karinto. Karin doesn't say it that way. And I recently just watched this. It's more like it fills your stomach. So, of course, later on, the senzus become used as these things to like totally heal you, right? So it seems like the manpukugan are more like they fill your stomach, whereas the fukatsumushi, the recovery bugs that we saw, I think it was in episode 4, those are the things that heal you and like revive you, literally. Like if you've been beat up, like, maybe after fighting the Tamagami number 3, maybe that would be a good time for Goku to munch on a recovery bug. And then a manpukugan as well to fill his stomach because he's going to be tired, right? So after using all that energy. So I'm sure we're going to see the fukatsumushi used. I don't think the manpukugan is really all that important, but who knows? Maybe it'll pop up again. So that is my 5 things I noticed, plus a little bonus there in episode 7. I'm very much looking forward to episode 8. But before we finish off the video, I got to give you a rating. And I'm going to say this is an 8 out of 10. So again, I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing. We are finally at the Tamagami. And we are finally with, Vegeta and Piccolo and Bulma. They are finally in the demon realm. We're going to have everybody meet up. Hopefully, we're going to see Vegeta and Piccolo and Bulma do more stuff now. I still don't like the voices. These new voices, I don't like them. But I'm excited to see everybody reunited and fighting in a big epic battle with Tamagami number 3. I am eager to watch number 8. So what do you think about episode 7? What do you think about the things I noticed? Did you notice anything else? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. And of course, leave me a like. I've got more breakdowns coming. So don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.